Zura stood before the golden archway of her royal chamber, her violet skin shimmering under the neon glow of the celestial lights. Her long dark hair cascaded over metallic shoulders, her gown hugging her figure with a precision only Xylarian technology could achieve. Regal, powerful, and stubbornly independent, she refused to be chained by tradition. "Your Majesty, the Council demands an heir." Chancellor Vekar's voice echoed from behind her, his tone firm yet reverent. "Without one, your rule will remain contested. The suitors grow impatient." Zura's jaw tightened. She had heard this argument 1,000 times. The advisors wanted her married to a power-hungry lord who would leech authority through her throne. Yet she would bow to no man, least of all one scheming for power. "There will be an heir," she said, her voice like steel, "but I will not marry." Vekar blinked, clearly puzzled. "But how, my queen?" A sly smile curved her lips. "An experiment." She turned to face him, her gown catching the light in glimmers of violet and blue. "Prepare the chamber. Instruct the scientists to find a suitable donor. A primitive one, far from our realm. I want no political entanglements, no consequences." The Chancellor bowed, though curiosity flickered in his eyes. "As you command." Weeks later, Zura watched holographic screens light up, displaying potential candidates. Her scientists scanned the galaxy, narrowing in on Earth, an isolated planet of little consequence. "Perfect. We've found a match," the lead scientist announced. "Human male, biologically compatible, physically unremarkable." Zura leaned closer, her emerald eyes narrowing as the hologram displayed the image of a man in his early 30s, lounging on a couch with an air of relaxed confidence. Dark hair fell casually over piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets even the galaxy could not unravel. His physique was solid, athletic, but not overly imposing. Just another human. Or so she thought. "He'll do," she declared. "Bring him to me." Will Ackers yawned, stretching out on his worn leather couch, his eyes fixed on the glow of his TV. It was a lazy Friday night, nothing out of the ordinary. Just as he reached for another slice of pizza, his living room was flooded with brilliant light. "What the—" His words were cut off as the world around him twisted, his body weightless, his vision filled with swirling colors. A sensation of falling, then nothing. He awoke on a plush silver chaise, his head spinning. Blinking rapidly, he tried to process his surroundings. The room was massive, its walls lined with golden arches that pulsed with neon light. "What the hell?" he muttered, bolting upright. His gaze locked on a figure standing by an ornate window. She turned slowly, her movement graceful, deliberate. Long dark hair flowed over shoulders, encased in a metallic gown that shimmered with otherworldly light. Her violet skin gleamed, flawless and mesmerizing. But it was her eyes, brilliant emeralds that pierced through him, that took his breath away. Will's pulse quickened. "Am I dreaming?" "No," she answered, her voice smooth as silk, carrying a hint of amusement. "You're very much awake." She stepped closer, her presence both regal and intoxicating. "I am Zura, Queen of Xylaria, and you, human, are here to fulfill a purpose." Will's instinctive humor kicked in. "Lady, I don't know what kind of Comic-Con this is, but I think you got the wrong guy." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Your confidence is amusing, but I assure you, there is no mistake. You are precisely what I need." He crossed his arms, leaning back with a cocky smirk. "Well, I've been called a lot of things, but never needed. Care to elaborate?" Her eyes sparkled with intrigue. "You are to participate in an experiment. One night, no consequences." Her tone was clinical, almost detached, yet her gaze never wavered from his. Will's eyebrow arched. An experiment? And if I say no? Zura's confidence didn't falter. Your compliance is encouraged, but unnecessary. You will find resistance quite futile. Will's mind raced, adrenaline flooding his senses. Yet even amidst the confusion, he couldn't help but admire her poise, her beauty. She was unlike anyone or anything he had ever encountered. "And what do I get out of this experiment?" he challenged, his voice steady. Zura stepped closer, the air between them electric. "You get to live." Her smile was serene, but her eyes gleamed with danger and promise. "And perhaps a night you'll never forget." Will's pulse quickened. A mix of fear, excitement, and intrigue twisted within him. "All right, Queen Zura," he said, his voice steady but his eyes burning with defiance. "Let's see what this is all about." Her smile widened. "Oh, you have no idea." The golden archway sealed behind them, shimmering with cosmic light as the first step of the experiment began. The royal chamber was vast, adorned with floating crystals that emitted soft, iridescent light. Zura moved with deliberate grace, her figure encased in a sleek, form-fitting gown that reflected flashes of violet and blue. Her emerald eyes never left Will, studying him with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. She approached him slowly, her presence commanding yet oddly magnetic. Will fought to maintain his composure, his natural confidence battling with the surrealism of his situation. "So, let me get this straight," Will began, crossing his arms as he leaned casually against the nearest pillar. "You kidnapped me from Earth for an experiment. And what exactly does this experiment involve?" Zura's lips curved into a faint smile, the gesture both regal and mischievous. "Your purpose is simple. One night, no consequences. Afterward, you will return to your world, your memory erased. It will be as though none of this ever happened." Will's eyebrow arched. "Memory erased, huh? Convenient. But why me?" She hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her otherwise flawless features. "You were selected for your biological compatibility, nothing more." "Uh-huh," Will replied, unconvinced. His gaze traveled over her, noting the regal poise that hid a simmering curiosity. "Well, Your Majesty, I hate to break it to you, but I don't do one-night stands, especially not with aliens who can wipe my memory." Zura's eyes narrowed, a spark of defiance igniting within them. "You misunderstand. This is not a request. It is a decree." She took another step closer, her presence radiating power. "I chose you, and you will comply." Will's smirk remained, his composure unbroken. "I've never been good at following orders." Her irritation melted into intrigue, her head tilting as she observed him. "You show no fear. Why?" Will shrugged, his posture relaxed. "Fear's a waste of energy. Besides, you don't strike me as the kill-your-guest type, and if you are, well, I guess tonight gets a lot more interesting." A laugh escaped her, musical and unexpected. It was a sound that echoed off the chamber walls, dissolving the tension between them. For a brief moment, the Queen's guard was down, and Will saw beyond the regal mask, a woman burdened by duty and expectation. Zura's amusement faded as quickly as it came, her composure snapping back into place. Yet a flicker of warmth remained in her gaze. "You are indeed unlike any human I have encountered." "And you're unlike any queen I've met," Will countered, his voice low. "What's your story?" For a heartbeat, Zura looked vulnerable, her shoulders tensing as she turned away. "My story is irrelevant. Only my duty matters." Will stepped forward, closing the space between them. "I don't buy that. A woman who risks everything to break tradition has a story worth telling." Zura's jaw clenched, her regal mask cracking under his scrutiny. "You presume much, human." "Name's Will," he corrected, his voice firm but gentle. "And yeah, maybe I do. But if you want me to do this, then I deserve the truth. Her emerald eyes searched his face, as if trying to decipher his motives. Finally, she relented. My council demands an heir. They seek to control me through political marriage. I refuse to be a pawn in their game. Her gaze hardened. That is why I chose you, an outsider with no political ties, an experiment to produce an heir without consequences. Will let her words sink in, piecing together the complexities of her situation. You wanted control over your own destiny, he murmured, admiration flickering in his eyes. Can't blame you for that. Zura's posture softened, a vulnerability surfacing beneath her regal exterior. I do what is necessary for my people, even if it means sacrificing my own desires. Will's demeanor shifted, his usual cockiness giving way to sincerity. Doesn't sound like much of a life, being a queen. She looked away, her expression distant. It is a life of duty, nothing more. Silence fell between them, heavy and charged. Then, slowly, Zura turned back to him, her gaze softer, more human. Are you ready? Zura's fingers trembled as she reached for him, her royal composure faltering. This is merely an experiment, she insisted, her voice wavering. Nothing more. Will's eyes locked onto hers, a smirk playing on his lips. You keep saying that, Your Majesty, but I don't believe you. His hand slid to her waist, pulling her against him. Her breath hitched, eyes widening. He closed the distance between them, his mouth capturing hers with a boldness that caught her off guard. Zura's resolve melted, her arms winding around his neck as he deepened the kiss, his touch igniting a fire she had never known. Her regal control shattered, replaced by a raw need that left her breathless. Will took the lead, guiding her back until she felt the cool edge of the silk-covered bed against her legs. His hands explored her curves with confident purpose, each touch sending shivers down her spine. She gasped as his lips trailed down her neck, his breath hot against her skin. You planned every detail, he murmured, his voice low and teasing. But you didn't plan for this, did you? Her head fell back, a moan escaping before she could stop it. For once, she had no answer, no command to give. In his arms, she wasn't a queen. She was simply a woman, lost in the moment. Will's touch grew more insistent, his movements deliberate, confident. He guided her into uncharted territory, leading her with a mastery that left her powerless to resist. Zura's world spun, her body arching toward his, surrendering to the sensations that overwhelmed her. As the ancient symbols began to glow, intertwining in golden light, neither noticed. Their world had narrowed to each other, to the electric connection that bound them. Time ceased to matter. In his arms, Zura was breathless, undone, and for the first time in her life, she let herself be. Will awoke to the soft glow of celestial orbs floating above him. His body felt both heavy and light, as if he were caught between worlds. The silver silk beneath him was cool against his skin, and for a fleeting moment he wondered if it had all been a dream. Zura stood by the window, her back to him, her form framed by the swirling galaxies beyond. Her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, her gown flowing like liquid light. Yet her shoulders were tense, her posture rigid. Will sat up, the memory of their night flooding back, her touch, her vulnerability, the surge of energy that had enveloped them both. His chest tingled where the ancient symbol had appeared, its faint glow still visible. He touched it, a shiver running through him. What happened? Zura turned, her face a mask of conflicted emotions. Her emerald eyes met his, uncertainty flickering within them. I don't understand it myself, she admitted, her voice unsteady. This was supposed to be simple, yet something ancient was awakened. Will stood, his gaze locked on hers. That symbol, it was on you too. What does it mean? It is the mark of sovereignty, an ancient binding ritual that ties two souls as one, recognizing them as rightful rulers of Xylaria. Her voice wavered. By cosmic law, you are now my king. Will's jaw dropped. Whoa, wait a minute. King? Me? He let out a laugh, more from shock than humor. Lady, I'm just a guy from Earth. Zora's expression hardened, her vulnerability masked once more. The ritual does not care about your origins. It has chosen you, and now so must I. Her tone was firm, but her eyes betrayed her fear. The council will see the mark. They will demand you take your place beside me. Will ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing. This was supposed to be one night, no strings. And now, I'm stuck here as your husband. The word tasted foreign on his tongue. Zora's cheeks darkened, a blush, faint but unmistakable. Our bond is unbreakable, and the council will accept nothing less than a united rule. Will paced the room, his thoughts spinning. I didn't sign up for this. I've got a life back on Earth. He stopped, locking eyes with her. Isn't there some way to undo it? Zora looked away, guilt shadowing her face. The ritual is ancient, irreversible. It was meant to solidify power, ensuring the rulers were bound by destiny itself. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I never meant for this to happen. Will's anger softened, replaced by understanding. She was trapped, just as much as he was. You were trying to protect your throne. I get that. He took a step closer. But now we're both stuck in this mess. Together. Their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement of the bond neither had asked for. Yet, even amidst the chaos, Will felt a pull toward her, an unexplainable connection. Zora's gaze softened, her voice tinged with vulnerability. If you stay, you will be a king, but you will also be my partner. I cannot promise an easy life, but I can promise you won't face it alone. Will looked at her, the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. He didn't know how to be a king, let alone the husband of an alien queen. But as he looked into her eyes, he felt something stir within him, a sense of purpose he never knew he needed. He took a deep breath. All right, Zora, I'm in. But we do this together. No more secrets. Her face softened, relief washing over her. Together. As they stood side by side, the ancient symbols on their chests pulsed in unison, sealing their fates once and for all. The grand hall of Xylaria was a sight to behold. Towering pillars of luminescent crystal reached toward a domed ceiling, where constellations danced across the expanse in real time, shimmering against a cosmic canvas. Rows of dignitaries filled the chamber, their alien features illuminated by the celestial glow. Will stood at the base of the throne's platform, dressed in ceremonial armor that felt both heavy and foreign. The metallic fabric clung to him, perfectly tailored yet unlike anything he'd worn before. He touched the ancient symbol still faintly glowing on his chest, the mark of sovereignty binding him to this world, and to her. Zora stood above him, her presence regal and commanding. Her gown cascaded like liquid starlight, each movement reflecting hues of violet and sapphire. A crown of intricate silver vines rested upon her brow, framing her emerald eyes, which were locked on him. The high priestess stepped forward, her robes flowing as she raised her arms. By the will of the cosmos and the ancient laws that govern us, we gather to witness the union of Queen Zora and her chosen king. Her voice echoed, powerful and unwavering. Let their bond ensure peace and prosperity for Xylaria. Will swallowed hard, his gaze flicking to Zora. Her expression was poised, her composure flawless, but he saw the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers tightened around the ceremonial staff. She was nervous, just as he was. The priestess turned to Will, her eyes piercing. Will Akers, do you vow to protect this realm, to rule with honor and wisdom, and to stand by your queen as her equal? Will hesitated, his heart pounding. Every fiber of his being told him to run, to find a way back to Earth, and leave this insane situation behind. But then he saw Zura, the vulnerability hidden behind her regal mask, the weight of duty she carried alone for so long. He took a deep breath, his voice steady. I vow to protect this realm, to rule with honor, and to stand by Zura as her equal. A murmur rippled through the crowd, surprise evident in their faces. Zura's eyes widened, a flicker of gratitude passing through them. The priestess nodded, satisfied. She turned to Zura. Queen Zura, do you vow to share your power, to lead with justice, and to stand by your king bound by destiny and choice? Zura's voice was firm, unwavering. I vow to lead with justice, to share my power, and to stand by will, not because destiny commands it, but because I choose him. Gasps echoed through the hall. Zura's defiance of tradition was unprecedented, yet no one dared challenge her resolve. Her declaration was absolute. The priestess raised her arms once more. Then let the cosmos bear witness. By ancient law and sovereign right, I declare you bound, king and queen of Xyleria. A burst of light erupted from the symbols on their chests, intertwining into a golden thread that spiraled around them, sealing their bond for all to see. As the energy faded, the throne room fell silent, every eye fixed on the newly crowned rulers. Will turned to Zura, his hand instinctively reaching for hers. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers intertwined with his, warm and steady. He felt the pulse of their shared power, the connection that went beyond ritual or law. It was real. It was theirs.